Getting your first $100,000 saved and invested will change your life. The quicker you can hit that milestone, the better. But this advice isn't coming from me. It's coming from legendary investor and billionaire Charlie Munger. Hearing what Munger had to say about the importance of getting your first $100,000 saved and invested completely changed the way I think about money and wealth building. In fact, listening to this advice from Charlie helped me grow my own investment portfolio to nearly $500,000 at 24 years old. I don't say this to brag. There are plenty of people my age who have way more money than me. Instead, I say this to demonstrate that the wealth building principles laid out by Charlie Munger do in fact work. I have watched probably every interview Charlie has ever given and have read most of everything he has written publicly. I am summing up the most important takeaways you need to know about wealth building in this video.
Today, we curated, segment reviewed and money highlighted on interview video, Charlie Munger, Why Your First $100,000 Will Change Your Life, by Investor Center. We delve into the insightful financial wisdom of the legendary investor and billionaire, Charlie Munger. His advice on rapidly reaching the $100,000 milestone and combating lifestyle inflation can be transformative for your wealth-building journey.
I'll come across popular quotes from successful people all the time. Often, they're not very practical or they're just too abstract to really be of any practical help. But if you know anything about Charlie Munger, you know he has, let me just say, quite the way with words. He is famous for his classic one-liners. At an old Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting in the 1990s, a young man asked Charlie for his best advice on creating wealth. The young man complained that he was having a hard time getting started. His net worth wasn't increasing as fast as he would like. This is when Charlie Munger uttered a quote that quickly became famous within the finance industry. The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. While that definitely got the audience's attention, he didn't stop there. He went on to say, I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. Essentially, what Munger is saying here is that it is extremely important to get to your first $100,000 saved and invested as quickly as possible. You need to do whatever it takes to hit that $100,000 mark. The first $100,000 is the hardest milestone to hit on your wealth building journey. Every subsequent milestone, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million, becomes easier. Let me explain what I mean.
Discover the transformative power of saving and investing, particularly in hitting the crucial $100,000 milestone quickly. Legendary investor Charlie Munger's advice becomes the focal point, stressing the life-changing impact of achieving this initial sum. The narrator shares personal success, having grown their own portfolio substantially. Munger's wisdom echoes throughout. The first $100,000 is tough but pivotal, laying the foundation for prosperous wealth building.
The reason why Munger is advocating hitting the $100,000 mark as quickly as possible has to do with two very simple and powerful words: compound interest. The words compound interest are two of the most magical words for your wealth building journey. Once you truly understand the concept of compound interest, it changes the way you view money. The technical definition of compound interest is the following. Compound interest is the interest on a loan or deposit calculated based on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. That definition is far from inspiring and doesn't truly do compound interest justice. Instead, I like to think of compound interest as a snowball rolling down a long hill. You do the work of making the first little snowball while you are starting on the top of the hill. You then roll the snowball down the hill. With each roll, the snowball is picking up more and more snow and is getting larger and larger. Then at the bottom of the long hill, the snowball is massive compared to the tiny snowball you started out with. You did no extra work in making the snowball. You just rolled it down the hill and let time and gravity do the work. The same concept applies to compound interest and wealth building.
Charlie Munger's emphasis on reaching the $100,000 milestone swiftly, the narrator dives into the concept of compound interest. It likens compound interest to a snowball rolling down a hill, accumulating more mass with each turn. The analogy highlights the effortless yet powerful nature of compound interest, where time and gravity do the work. This perspective transforms the way one views money, showcasing the snowball effect in wealth building.
Let's say that when Charlie provided the wisdom on the importance of getting to your first $100,000, there were two people in the crowd, John and Steve. John and Steve were both 20 years old when they heard this advice. Both had good jobs and were generally good with money. Except when John heard Charlie's advice, something clicked. A light bulb went off in his head. He decided that he would do whatever it takes to follow Charlie's advice. John got super serious. He became insanely frugal and worked more and more to be able to save more money. He got to that first $100,000 at 25 years old. Steve, on the other hand, didn't really appreciate Munger's message. He went on with life as normal and hit the $100,000 mark at 35 years old, 10 years after John. Assuming both of these guys never put in another dollar into their investment accounts once they hit the $100,000 mark, how much do you think each of them would have when they are 70? For the sake of this example, let's assume a 10% return. This 10% return approximates the long-term historical average return for the stock market. At the age of 70, Steve has $2.8 million. Steve is a millionaire despite never contributing another dollar after hitting the $100,000 mark. Now, how much more do you think John has than Steve, considering he hit $100,000 10 years earlier? Maybe you're thinking another $500,000 or $1 million, or maybe an extra $2 million if he's really lucky. Well, those numbers aren't even close. John has a staggering $7.3 million in his account when he is 70. This is around $4.5 million more than his buddy Steve. Remember, this was John hitting the $100,000 milestone at 25 and then never contributing another dollar to his account. This is what Charlie Munger meant when he said that you can, quote, ease off the gas a little after you hit $100,000. This is because once you have $100,000 in your account, compound interest starts to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of wealth building. To use our earlier example, at $100,000, you have built a big enough starting snowball that it is going to pick up a ton of snow as it rolls down the hill.
In analyzing Charlie Munger's advice on reaching the $100,000 milestone, a hypothetical scenario unfolds featuring two individuals, John and Steve. Both aged 20 when hearing Munger's counsel, John resonates with the wisdom, adopting an intensely frugal lifestyle and hitting the $100,000 mark by 25. Steve, less influenced, reaches the milestone at 35. Assuming a 10% return, at age 70, Steve amasses $2.8 million without further contributions. However, John, who started 10 years earlier, remarkably accumulates $7.3 million. This stark difference underscores Munger's insight that, after hitting $100,000, compound interest significantly propels wealth building, allowing one to ease off the gas while assets grow substantially.
Established why hitting that $100,000 milestone as quickly as possible is so important, I want to spend the rest of this video talking about how you can get there. Specifically, how I apply the lessons from Charlie Munger to my own life and hit the $100,000 mark in my early 20s. Again, this is not to brag. Instead, I want to provide a practical framework of things that I have learned that may help you out. The equation to wealth building is simple math. The amount of money you can save in any given time period is simply the difference between what you earned in income and your expenses. Think of yourself as a business. Revenue, what you earned, minus your expenses equals your profit. Just like a business, your goal should be to maximize the profit line. The greater this profit line is, the more you can save and the bigger you can make your snowball. There are really only two ways you go about maximizing what you can save in any given period: maximizing your income and minimizing your expenses. These are the two variables you can change that will lead to having more money you can save. Now let's talk about the maximizing income side of the equation. One of the biggest lessons that I learned from Charlie Munger is this concept of selling your time back to yourself. When Charlie was a young lawyer, he quickly realized that the law firm that he worked for was billing him out to clients at the rate of, let's say, $400 an hour in today's money. Now, of course, Charlie himself was not getting paid the equivalent of $400 an hour from the law firm, as the firm was taking a big cut. However, it made Charlie realize that his time was extremely valuable. He needed to start allocating time each and every day to his most important client, himself.
Having stressed the importance of swiftly reaching the $100,000 milestone, let's discuss practical strategies. The wealth-building equation is simple. Savings depend on the difference between income and expenses. Treat yourself as a business. Revenue, income minus expenses, equals profit. To grow your financial snowball, maximize income and minimize expenses. On the income side, Charlie Munger's lesson is to sell your time back to yourself. Like Munger, recognize the value of your time. Allocate time daily to yourself, invest in skills, pursue side hustles, and explore opportunities that enhance your earning potential. By selling your time at a higher rate, you contribute to the profitability of your personal enterprise.
Early in the morning and late at night, Charlie worked for himself on things that would directly increase the amount of money he could make. He spent his time learning about investing and working on real estate deals. I want to transition to the other part of the wealth building equation, minimizing expenses. When Charlie Munger was asked what the secret to a successful life is, he gave a list of around 5 to 7 things. Towards the top of that list was to underspend your income. Charlie Munger's business partner, Warren Buffett, has taken minimizing expenses to the extreme. Buffett is worth over $100 billion, but he still drives a car he bought in 2014, and his idea of a fancy restaurant is a restaurant with $2 signs on Google. When it comes to building wealth, it doesn't matter how much you earn. It matters how much you keep. If someone makes $250,000 a year but spends $240,000, they are left with $10,000 that they can save and invest. However, if we have someone that is earning $60,000 a year and is only spending $40,000 of it, they are able to save and invest $20,000. This means that the person that is earning $60,000 a year is actually building wealth at twice the rate of the $250,000 earner, simply because the $60,000 earner is minimizing expenses better. This phenomenon where people spend more money as they make more money is called lifestyle inflation. This is where as people make more money, they want to have a fancier apartment, a nicer car, and more expensive clothing. Lifestyle inflation is the reason why, according to a recent study, nearly 1 out of every 3 people making $250,000 a year is living paycheck to paycheck.
The key takeaway is simple: spend less than you earn. This approach allows individuals to save and invest more, leading to faster wealth accumulation. The trap of lifestyle inflation, where increased income results in higher spending, is a common challenge that can hinder financial progress. Studies show that even those earning $250,000 annually can end up living paycheck to paycheck due to this phenomenon.
Let me show you the numbers behind why lifestyle inflation is the biggest barrier that keeps the average person from hitting the $100,000 milestone. Let's say we have 2 people, John and Steve, the same guys from our earlier example. Steve recently graduated college and took a job with a starting salary of $65,000. Let's say that Steve is an extremely ambitious person that works very hard at his job. Through additional responsibilities and promotions, Steve is able to get annual raises of 8%. However, as Steve makes more money, he also spends more money. His first year out of college, his living expenses are $60,000, allowing him to save $5,000. But every single year, Steve succumbs to lifestyle inflation. His income increases by 8% a year, but so do his expenses, at that same 8% a year rate. As a result, Steve has only been able to increase how much he can save each year from $5,000 in year 1 to a little under $10,000 at the end of year 10. This is despite the fact that he went from making $65,000 a year in year 1 to making $130,000 a year in year 10. Over the 10-year period, Steve managed to save around $72,000. A solid amount of money, don't get me wrong. However, let's see how our friend John did. Just like Steve, John also made $65,000 the first year. He is also a great employee and was able to get 8% annual raises. However, there is one big difference between John and the previous example of Steve. John was able to resist the temptation of lifestyle inflation. Instead of his expenses increasing at the same rate as his income, John was able to limit his expense growth to just 2% a year. How much more money do you think he would have been able to save at the end of year 10 than his friend Steve? The answer is honestly shocking. John was able to save nearly $285,000 in total, nearly 4 times that of Steve, simply because John was able to resist the temptation to drastically increase his lifestyle as he made more money. John and Steve made the exact money over the 10-year period in this example. However, John made it a point to continuously underspend his income. Charlie Munger would be quite proud. If you are watching this video, I can already tell you are a smart, ambitious, and motivated person. Likely the biggest threat to you building wealth will be lifestyle inflation. Do everything you can to fight it. Remember Charlie's advice on how underspending your income is a key to a happy and successful life. I hope you learned something from this video. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up.
The key takeaway is the significant impact of lifestyle inflation on long-term wealth building. By resisting the temptation to increase expenses with rising income, individuals can substantially boost their savings over time. John's disciplined approach, limiting expense growth to 2% annually, resulted in savings nearly 4 times greater than Steve's, who succumbed to lifestyle inflation. Charlie Munger's advice on underspending income proves crucial in achieving financial success and building substantial wealth over the years. In conclusion, Charlie Munger's advice on hitting the $100,000 milestone quickly coupled with resisting lifestyle inflation, is a powerful strategy for building lasting wealth. Learn from John's disciplined approach to underspending income and make it a key principle on your journey to financial success. If you were inspired and gained insightful knowledge from our informative reviews, please give us a like and consider subscribe to our channel Money Highlighted for more. Thanks.